Hey guys, Legendary Grimlock here, and welcome to the fourth remake video so far. Hope you guys are enjoying these. I will be adding more though, because I feel like I do need to remake just a little bit more for the content. So yeah, prepare to see more. And I guess Wave 6 is going to be longer than I expected, right? But today we have Hydranoid versus Vegeta, and here we go with Hydranoid. Now, after rewatching the show, Hydranoid is a lot more powerful than even the show gave it credit for, and that's the reason why he wasn't in a lot of it, is because they made a Bakugan that was so powerful that he really couldn't be beaten by a lot of characters here. Now, where does Hydranoid scale here? Now, Hydranoid would actually be stronger than the new Destroyer version of Drago, and he would actually scale up to maximum Dragonoid. This is Drago with the mechanical Bakugan parts and the Infinity Core as well here. Now, the reason why I say he was scaled to him and actually was scaled to that level of Drago, possibly being a little bit stronger than Maximus Dragonoid, I would say here, is because he was not only one of the few Bakugan that could, but if he won this fight here, where he stalemated Drago a total of, I think, around 3 different times, he would have been able to hold the Perfect Core and would have still gone on to defeat Naga. However, he really wouldn't need it. He still scales above this Infinite Dragonoid by being able to one-shot guards that were really just beating up Drago. And he was doing this with utter ease, even taking out 2 of them, while as to the other ones could only take out 1. So again, it would show that Hydranoid is a lot stronger than even the other main members of the original Bakugan team, like Skyrus, Tigrera, and Gorum, who I will be scaling in a little bit. It would also make him stronger than the other Bakugan from the new Destroyer series, such as Percival, Ingram, and what's his name? Wilda. I apologize. So this Hydranoid himself here, even in the first season, was doing things like being able to scare Naga, and even had Naga worried that he could still take him down. Naga himself was a character that could merge not only our world, but the Bakugan multiverse with our universe here. Keep in mind the Bakugan universe scales to its core, which is infinite in size and infinite in power. And Hydranoid will also scale above Exedra and the Ancient Six. Now, the Ancient Six warriors have a bit of lore behind them, but the Bakugan verse is kind of a mess when it comes to the infinite, the lore and stuff behind it. The whole, power levels and stuff are kind of messed up and mixed up because of the whole lore just being like added on as the series goes, which again is kind of messy. But again, if you actually do the series backwards with a little bit of in-between junctions or in-between stuff, you actually see it makes more sense here. So the Ancient Six were Bakugans that were created as some of the first original Bakugans, along with Genesis Dragonoid and Genesis Darknoid. These guys would scale above the Nonets, who actually scaled to Titanium Dragonoid and would be below Fusion Dragonoid. On most of occasions, they would require Fusion Dragonoid to fuse, but that's because they're fusing themselves here, which would multiply their power. However, individually, they scale below Drago. Even together, they would barely scale to Fusion Dragonoid. And Hydranoid would scale above these guys due to the sheer fact that the Ancient Six were able to not only beat them, but seal them in the Doom Dimension. Keep in mind as well, as in the first season, Hydranoid was confirmed to actually be connected to the Doom Dimension, which is basically an infinite void containing a time stream that allows the brawlers to go back and forth in between time as they choose here. So Hydranoid is able to feed on any Bakugan that is sent to the Doom Dimension. But just like I said earlier, he's kind of nerfed because of the whole lore being established later on in the season. But let's talk about the Ancient Six here. The Ancient Six, in their non-battling forms, are still able to exist beyond infinity. They're able to exist beyond the Infinity Core, the Bakugan multiverse, and the Silent Core. So they were able to exist beyond dimensions that are containing amounts of infinite power, which should put them above dimensionality and would put them at an outerversal level. basically existing in multiple planes as well. They are also able to go into a plane that's much higher than that, being the astral plane, and they're able to exist on that plane as well. And again, this is their non-battling forms, which should be capable of destroying these voids and these planes of existence here. And Hydranoid easily scales above that, and easily scales above characters like Drago, even when he had the Infinity Core, who should be around the same levels, if not above the Ancient Six here. You see, the reason why I'm a little contentious on that is because the Ancient Six were testing the brawlers and not actually fighting them. Meanwhile, Exedra wasn't testing Hydranoid. He was actively trying to beat him. And Exedra was confirmed to be the strongest member of the Ancient Six. Now, I am going to make a video about this when Wave 7 rolls around. I actually might make it for an in-between space video to space out the story content. But again, Hydranoid should actually be able to damage, actually mortally wound Mechtavis Destroyer. The reason why I'm saying that is because in this one, I don't know why he wasn't given like any shine at all in this one, but he was able to at least take 2 blasts before being incinerated and exorted by Mechtavis Destroyer. But keep in mind, characters like Blade Tigrera, Aragon, and Skyrus, as well as Preyas Ingram, were able to stagger, harm, and even bring Mechtavis Destroyer right down to his knees with their abilities. But yet Hydranoid, who is confirmed to be the second strongest compared to Drago from the original season, who would still be above these characters, wasn't comparable to any of these guys, wasn't able to harm Mechtavis Destroyer. You guys see where the problem is here? The fact that these writers kind of gave the love and the kind of, you could even say, the feats to these characters, when again, it's confirmed that Hydranoid is stronger than these characters. He scales to a Drago and scales above a Drago with these components, with these mechanical Bakugan components, and yet somehow these characters are still able to damage Mechtavis Destroyer, but he can't. But yet he can still take 2 shots from this guy, or multiple, sorry, not 2 shots, multiple shots from Mechtavis Destroyer without being one-shotted like these guys were. You guys see where the problem lies with the writing in Mectanium Surge. And again, it was pretty much reviewed as one of the more lackluster seasons, but again, it did its job of finally ending the Bakugan series as a whole here. So Hydranoid also possesses a plethora of abilities here, such as nullification, power absorption, power amplification, self-amplification, being able to drop an opponent's power down to 0, so essentially being able to bypass an opponent's durability and still managing to one-shot them. He also has durability negation. He also has, you know, mechanical manipulation as his saw stomach, albeit this could be a bioorganic, you know, a techno-organic, apologies, a techno-organic weapon here. He's able to use darkness manipulation, meaning he can cover an entire battlefield and pretty much avoid here. He can nullify things like transmutation, molecular manipulation, void manipulation, darkness manipulation. You know, he has a plethora of powers and abilities. He has Death Trident, Indigo Nightmare, Destroy Vanish, you know, where he's able to ensnare and bring opponent into his saw blade. He has, you know, Oregano Revenge and Merge Shield, which are abilities that allow him to absorb the opponent's power. And he should easily be many times faster than the speed of light because he scales to Chaos Bakugan, who are like FTL. And the reason why I'm saying they're like FTL here is because, well, not only are they the light element, you have basic Bakugan that are able to react to Chaos Bakugan on a regular basis, like Serpenoid, Mantis, Rattaloid, Houndoom. You have these Bakugan that can easily react to light speed Bakugan pretty easy. And Hydranoid is in the upper, you know, echelon of that Bakugan hierarchy, and he should be many times faster than light. So easily out of Versal, faster than light, with plethora of hacks and abilities, Darkest element allows him to use more nullification abilities than anything, and he should be one of the strongest Bakugan in the verse. So let's move on to his opponent, Vegeta. Now, the Prince of All Saiyans should scale above every Dragon Ball villain at this point, especially with Ultra Ego now being equal to Ultra Instinct mastered here, and possibly being slightly below mastered Ultra Instinct Omen Goku post emotion boost or something like that. I don't really remember which one it was, but Goku was able to find a way to use Ultra Instinct with his emotions and eventually able to overcome it. So he should easily scale above the Battle of Gods arc, where Goku and Beerus in a clash were almost able to destroy the entire Dragon Ball macrocosm. The Dragon Ball macrocosm consists of both Heaven, Snake Way, and the Underworld, with the Dragon Ball universe being infinite in size, and both Heaven and the Underworld being infinite in size as well here. Now, Vegeta would have surpassed this level during the prelude to the Golden Frieza arc, but after the Battle of Gods arc, where he was training on the pretty much Beerus' planet with Whis here, so he would have surpassed that level simply by training. He then goes on to get Super Saiyan Blue and beats down Golden Frieza, who was confirmed stronger than Super Saiyan Blue Goku. Now, the only reason why you could probably say they were able to even do this was because Frieza was out of stamina and kind of just rushed to get his form. But again, here, Vegeta should still be above Golden Frieza because everyone saw his flaw. It's just that Vegeta would have handled it far differently than Goku. Vegeta would also surpass characters like Goku Black, who could rip through time and space and into possibly his own dimension, I think he said. There's also the fact that he was able to beat Topo in his Akaishin form when he achieved Super Saiyan Blue evolution, which would definitely surpass Goku's Kaioken times 20 multiplier, or should be an equivalent to that. So, Topo himself being able to beat down characters like Golden Frieza and Android 17, who are both respectively blue level. Frieza being able to stalemate a Goku post the Goku Black arc, and Android 17 holding back against that same Goku, meaning he should be as strong as, characters like, as Goku when he probably uses the Kaioken, maybe times 10 or times 20, we don't know. But again, he is in the higher ups of the Dragon Ball power scaling here. So, yeah, I think it's pretty simple. And considering the fact that Android 17 was fighting relative to characters like Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta and Kaioken times 20 Goku, it should be, kind of cemented that he would be around that level here. And then Vegeta comes along, not only beats Topo in a physical matchup here, but is able to punch through the Hakai, and when using his final explosion, was able to eliminate Topo from the Tournament of Power. Now, I know some people have contentious with this because, excuse me, some people have contentious with both of them because no one is allowed to kill in the Tournament of Power, which, again, I can agree they're not using deadly force here. But, Topo's using the Hakai stuff, so he would have actually killed Vegeta, with Topo even stating the sheer fact that if he killed, he would be disqualified from the tournament. Meaning that if he did kill somebody or was trying to kill somebody, the Grand Priest and Zeno would have kicked him out the tournament, or maybe even erased him right then and there. Keep in mind, Topo is still able to change the world of Void, which is a void that is pretty much that has no form of time and space, which would again give more access to the 5D scaling here. And Topo also has Hakai energy around him, or Erasure energy around him, which Vegeta still was able to overpower. So even if you have contentious with these feats here, they still have the ramifications or the applications for Vegeta still bypassing things like Hakai. Then you have the sheer fact that when Vegeta got Ultra Ego, he was fighting beings that were confirmed to be the strongest in the universe, or at least in Universe 7. This means beings like, again, Boo, they should be stronger than Moro, they should be stronger. It's very possible that Gas and Granola are stronger than Cell Max, who should be stronger than Goku and Vegeta from the Moro arc. So again, it's very It's very simple here. And Vegeta was absolutely beating the mess out of Gas a couple of occasions in this fight as well as taking attacks from Gas here. However, Vegeta's Ultra Ego form does come with some, what should I say, the risk and reward benefit is what I should say here. You see, the more damage Vegeta takes, the stronger he becomes here. However, Vegeta takes too much damage and it could overtax the form. It's still new and he still has time to master it, but again, he's still dealing with that kind of flaw here. However, he is able to bend Erasure energy and throw it back at his opponent pretty easily. Kind of like in a Big Bang attack, as you guys can see here. But again, he's, still able to use things like Hakai. He's also able to use things like Force Spirit Fission, which is able to rip the energy out of the opponent that the energy was stolen from. So basically, Moro being able to steal energy from worlds and even people themselves, he had the energy simply just ripped, from him. So again, Vegeta has some very good scaling here. He should easily be in the complex multiversal or at least to 5D. You could argue higher, but again, I would probably argue 6 or 7D for Dragon Ball at bare minimum if you want to argue higher, or at least with the consistent scaling of them constantly going up. But again, I wouldn't argue Universal Dragon Ball. I really wouldn't. For main canon Dragon Ball, I wouldn't argue it. For things like Dragon Ball Heroes and things like Dragon Ball Super Heroes, I would argue that. So without further ado, let's talk about this matchup here. Who wins this more often than not here? Vegeta versus Hydranoid. Now, I did this battle, and I think this is the third and final time I'm actually doing it here, because I think it's pretty simple and pretty safe to say here that Hydranoid outscales Vegeta by a large and significant margin. The whole Outerversal and complex multiversal gap is like very wide here, and he's scaling to much stronger, probably weaker versions of Drago that still have like Outerversal attack potency here. Characters that can still scale beyond things like dimensionality, conceptualism, and various other concepts within the Bakugan verse here. There are even beings that simply attack on a conceptual level, like the Ancient Six, characters like Gorum, and even others. There's even characters that are simply able to just pretty much blast you so hard that they tear open dimensions, and they kind of think you're dead after that. But again, like I said before, he easily scales above, or at least relative to, a maximum Dragonoid. A Drago that simply has, more power. The power of not only just the Infinity Core, but every other element at that as well. So again, even with the Infinity Core, Hydranoid should still be able to defeat Drago. Plus, he has access to a Void universe to give him more power here. And again, it's kind of weird how he was just nerfed for like the rest of the seasons. And again, the first season was the only season that he was actually properly utilized in. But meanwhile, every other character, or every other every other Bakugan that he would normally scale above was simply just outdoing him. We know that only a few Bakugan do train, and Hydranoid is one of those Bakugan who were actually training. But the sheer fact that he didn't get any, like, I guess you could say, like, relativity after this, after the second season in that one fight he had with Hades, just kind of shows that, yeah, they had no idea what they were doing with Mectanium Surge at all, or the entirety of the Mectavious Destroyer arc. Yes, it was a good way to end it off here, but again, it was just, they did him dirty, is what I really should say here. And the sheer fact that he also had half of his power taken away from Hades, who again was just a cheap knockoff version of him. And again, he did wind up just one-shotting him and just blowing him up completely. But again, goes on to lose to Max Spider, which again came out of nowhere here. So essentially, yeah, Hydranoid just got done dirty a lot here. However, that doesn't take away from the scaling that was provided here today. Hydranoid is still an outerversal being with a much higher level than Vegeta. Hydranoid would actually be able to mortally wound Mechtavius Destroyer, who you could say is like a gas or a maybe even like a Beerus of his verse, if you will, or at least the, well, kind of like the angel of his verse here, the top tier being in that verse, simply because he also killed the Nonets, who are comparable to the Ancient Six. However, I do know a lot of people like to use these scans here to promote Outerverse and Dragon Ball, and I'm here to tell you guys right now, do not use these scans. Do not do that to yourselves. Again, do not use these scans. Now, you might say, oh, Legendary, why shouldn't we use this? This is legit information. Yeah, no, it's not. For starters, this comes from a game called Dragon Ball Legends, which is not even canon to the main Dragon Ball. Plus, it says it's inspired by Asian mythology, not an exact copy. You guys also like to use the word super dimensional and try to, like, I guess you could say, take that risk and try to get Dragon Ball to Outerversal. When again, this comes from Comic Vine, which isn't even a remotely applicable source. I don't understand how y'all Dragon Ball fans really do this to yourselves most of the time here. But again, y'all gotta do better. Y'all can't just use whatever y'all want, or y'all see something like, oh, well, this is Outerversal, that's Outerversal. You guys have to understand and look up the definition of Outerversal, which as of now is pretty much scaling above things like conceptual realms and above things like dimensionality, which again, Dragon Ball does not have. Bakugan does, because they don't have a dimensional limit. Yes, the lower ones may, but the higher ones, the main ones, they don't really have that dimensional limit. And then there are others who are simply just well beyond that limit in general. And Hydranoid is one of those characters that does not have a dimensional limit. So in all honesty, obviously Hydranoid would take this low to no difficulty. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I hope you guys have a blessed day. Peace.